Hey folks, welcome, welcome. To begin with, how many of you have spent more than $500 on Black Friday deals yet? We're starting low and we'll build it up. How many of you have spent 500 or more? Yep, Alex, you and me both. Alex says zero, not really looking for anything. Yeah, exactly. You and me both. Um, Katie also says no, not yet. Yeah, so yeah, I haven't done any shopping myself, and nothing, like I said, nothing really has caught my attention to an extent where I went, oh my God, I really need to get onto this particular Black Friday deal just yet. And this includes not just travel stuff, but also just retail and otherwise as well. Nothing has really grabbed my attention thus far. Uh, so yeah. I was going to build up from 500 upwards, but I don't think, I mean, given a few responses we've received, I don't think folks here at least have even spent $500 to begin with. So there's no point pulling up that scale to 1,000 and beyond. But oh, Alex does say, however, I need an iPad and was wondering if Cyber Monday is when Aeroplan should have 10x. Depends on what kind of iPad, Alex, because oftentimes the Aeroplan deals that we've seen through eStore excludes the latest models and such. But if you're okay with maybe one or two generations older iPads, then you may be able to get something. Yeah, not the latest, says Alex. Yeah. Dahlia also says, I bought vitamin D supplements with 12% Rakuten cashback so far, zero sun in Ottawa. Fair enough, Dahlia. Yeah, zero sun indeed. Yeah, at least the last 2, 3 days, we've not seen anything, but yeah, 12%. Nice. Uh, Rakuten US has a nice Hyatt thing going on with almost 15%, I think, or somebody double check 15% or more if you book directly. I mean, if you can book directly, but as long as you click through Rakuten, but that has to be Rakuten US side of things, and then you're booking any of the hotels in sort of North America to get that deal. But yeah, your comment about Rakuten reminded me of that. Katie says my TV is on its last leg, so I'll take a look. Yeah, and then good point. There is the actual need as opposed to want. Uh, how do you determine if Black Friday, or have you anecdotally noticed, and this is not just for Katie, but everybody else listening in as well, have you anecdotally noticed if Boxing Day sales or Christmas sales are better than Black Friday, or is it vice versa? I just don't pay attention enough, or I try my very best to not buy too many things that I don't need. So to me, when I need it, I go out and purchase it as much as I can without bothering about Black Friday. Like I said, not being pompous, unless something really catches my attention and then jives with what I need, then it works out. Otherwise, it's one of those things that I have stopped paying attention. Raul says, I've found Black Friday deals to always be better. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, back in the day, like Boxing Day used to be the biggest thing, but I think now Black Friday has like totally taken over this entire space, even in Canada. Because to me, back in the day, I would say even 10 years ago, Black Friday wasn't that big a deal here in Canada, but now year over year, it just seems like it has grown a lot. Oh, Alex, I was just about to say Future Shop. Well done. Alex says, I used to work at Future Shop from 2001 to 2006, and I noticed as time went on, the Boxing Day week sale weren't as great over the years. Yeah, I was just about to say that Boxing Day, I've stood outside in lineups at night for like camcorders back in the day, digital cameras, whatever for outside Future Shop uh, before it got bought over by what's the Best Buy. Yes, that's correct, right? Best Buy bought out Future Shop. Yes, yes. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, the couple of other minor sort of promotions, not minor, Black Friday promotions that were half decent was obviously the Bonvoy and Hilton are doing their flash sales. Both are doing up to 25% off on cash rates. So if you are going to book some cash rates with Marriott or Hilton, there is a decent chance right now through this week to make your bookings for stays well into spring or early summer next year. I think better yet is for those that are seeking luxury properties, you might find better deals with Accor or the Fairmont Group, which are both advertising 30% discount on hotel rates. Um, and oh, this also reminds me that one of the other things that I forgot to mention this when we were chatting about Black Friday earlier in this conversation. One of the wonderful things I like to do in Black Friday is all of these brands that write into me and fill my inbox. It's a great time to clean up. Like just go unsubscribe, unsubscribe, and all of that. If you have a Gmail account, I don't know if every account does it. I'm assuming everybody else does it too. But the Gmail inboxes make it very easy to unsubscribe from these mailing lists. So this is also a great time, even if you're not, especially if you're not in there to purchase anything, great time to clean up your inbox and start unsubscribing from all of these unwanted emails. That's the biggest hack I could tell you about Black Friday. Announcement by Air Canada expanding their transatlantic network for summer schedules for summer 2026. So they've introduced four new routes, and out of the four, one they've confirmed is a new A321 XLR route. And if you haven't caught my excitement in the previous edition of this forum, what's the point? I'm really looking forward to seeing what narrow body business class or lie flat beds can do to the future of aviation, at least for the distances that the A321 is going to capture. And we knew that Europe was going to get a special sort of attention through this aircraft, so we see that continuing. Out of the four new routes that were announced, couple caught my attention right off the back. One, obviously, for the A321 XLR, which is Montreal to Berlin, fantastic. And the other one was Halifax to Brussels. So Halifax gets yet another European gateway, which is fantastic. And I don't think Halifax to Brussels, at least right now, is confirmed on the XLR, the A321 XLR. But the fact that Halifax gets another European gateway is amazing for folks out east. And somebody even commented in one of my things saying, "I'm surprised that Ottawa doesn't get this and Halifax does." And to be very honest, when you think about this, from an operational perspective, I'm not saying that that's the sole reason, but my take in that would be Halifax is a much bigger hub for Eastern Canada than Ottawa is here in Ontario because traditionally or historically, folks from Ottawa region or National Capital Region have sort of trained their minds and have become accustomed to sort of driving over to Montreal or connecting in Toronto. But for folks out in Halifax, they basically get all of the um, regional travelers, be it Newfoundland, PEI, New Brunswick, and that entire region sort of relies heavily on the Halifax gateway as a hub. So the fact that they're getting Brussels kind of makes sense operationally to me, as opposed to Ottawa, Brussels, or Ottawa even Frankfurt. Hopefully that comes back. It has in Ottawa, London for now, and of course, Air France to Paris remain the two European destinations out of Ottawa. In fact, and I've mentioned this before as well, Halifax also has great one world connectivity into the US, as well as, of course, Air Canada's connectivity into other places in Canada and the US. But yeah, Halifax for a regional hub is a very strong connection. Uh, in that space. Raul says, I was checking redemption for the Berlin route. I could not find business one way for less than 300,000. Yeah, Raul, I think if you were checking on the date off or the week off when it starts, I think June, right? I have had this written out somewhere. Yeah, July 2nd. You may want to check later towards October. Um, and then see if you can fan those things out. July, because it's a new route, the first week will obviously be super expensive. And often what ends up happening is a few of the executives are always booked out on the first few routes with the A321 XLRs or any other first routes, perhaps, and which is why the pricing tends to be really crazy. If you want to have fun, look up so the other XLR or A321 XLR routes that have already been announced. The first one being Mallorca, for example. Check out Mallorca for actually no, Mallorca was removed. The business class is all sold out now, but eventually they was sitting at something crazy like 300 or 400,000 for the last seat before it got snapped up. Uh, so yeah, so Mallorca, Edinburgh, and Porto, I think, or Toulouse are the three that have been confirmed. Berlin becomes the fourth route confirmed on the A321 XLR, and the potential other routes that are going to show up, perhaps based on what they have given us a few hints on, seems to be Dublin, Porto, uh, perhaps Ottawa. Ottawa, London will become that route, and then Halifax eventually may also get that Berlin route to be, or sorry, the Brussels route to be A321 XLR, but that remains to be confirmed. Alex says, is the A321 a similar plane that TAP uses for Montreal and other? I think the TAP, yes, it's a similar plane, except a newer version. Somebody double check, but I think the top one is A321 LR, like long range, and this is the XLR. XLR one is sort of a longer range, newer aircraft, but I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but I could be wrong. Yeah, Dahlia is confirming long range for TAP. Yeah, this one's the XLR. Raul says, I think it's the same XLR. SAS Scandinavian is also using the same. It's now bad 2-2 configuration. TAP has some throne seat though. Hmm. Yeah, the TAP one I knew. I think Dahlia has even written a review on it, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember it correctly. There is a full business class review. So if folks want to check that out, look up TAP Portugal A321 review, and you'll notice Dahlia's review in there, which is the 1-1 configuration with doors and whatnot. Really excites me to see what we could do on these um, 6 to 7 hour duration flights, perhaps in most of these cases. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes, both in terms of the pricing and what that does to the pricing of other narrow body aircraft or other wide body for that matter going into Europe. Um, and just operationally what that does to the aviation industry once these narrow body business class particularly come through, and if it is in full demand and if it really runs well, then yeah, narrow body XLRs might become the next thing for those distances over the next 10 years or more. Remains to be seen, of course. Um, yeah, so that was the new Air Canada routes that they announced. Which were the other ones? They're bringing back Tel Aviv flight. I sort of noticed that as well on the map. And there was, oh yeah, there was the Toronto to PDL, Ponta Delgada. It is the archipelago region of Portugal. I forget what the but this is a bigger town. I looked up PDL, looked up a few Azores. Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, so it is sort of when I looked it up, it said it's the executive capital of the Azores region. Um, so it seems like a great summer destination, and clearly is a summer route for that reason. And then there was also the Nantes route, which was out of Montreal. And again, that's in France. So yeah, France gets another route, another direct route from Montreal, which is good. Um, the other sort of story that interested me the most was also the Emirates A350 route coming to Montreal, which basically now replaces the 777-200 service to Dubai. So this would mean that the A350 will fly from Montreal to Dubai, and we'll continue to have the A380 that will continue to fly from Toronto to Dubai. Fantastic for those. A350 is a brand new aircraft. Super happy. And Montreal becomes the first airport in all of the Americas to get the A350 from Emirates. So fantastic. Looking forward to sort of flying them pretty soon, if possible, early next year, to see what it's all about. They're basically saying 1st February onwards, they should have the A350 swapped out for A350 will swap out the 777-200s from Montreal. And if the aircraft becomes available before that, they will even bring it into service before that, because that's just a nod to how dated the or the 777-200 aircraft was, and that service was. Although my experience was a little bit better than what I'd expected. The 777-200's business class is still the 222 configuration in business class as well. So not the best sort of seats privacy wise, but just in terms of sheer square footage that slim seat gave you by the window or by the aisle, it was pretty impressive. So if you were traveling with two people together, I think that would make for a much more engaged and friendlier seating arrangement than a cubby to yourself. And again, I'm not saying folks shouldn't have a single seat in business class to themselves. I'm just saying if you had to go 777-200 and if you were two of them, you would enjoy that aircraft still, even in 2025. But I'm just super glad that Emirates is swapping it out with the brand new A350 out of Montreal, which made me sort of uh, think about, I guess, the topic of this session, which was how are people still booking their Emirates business or even first class flights when it comes to award redemptions? Any anecdotal or any first-hand experience of searching and trying to book premium award seats with Emirates? Because obviously, if you think about first class, sometime in summer, earlier this summer, Emirates made it a little more difficult, and they are now making first class seats available only to folks that have elite status, especially if you're booking with Skywards Miles, which is Emirates' own program. And of course, um, to get that elite status, you either have to be in the region and fly more than enough, or here in North America, if you are active in the US credit card market, there's a couple of Emirates credit cards by Barclays. I think they're World Elite credit cards, and both of those, one gives silver, one gives gold status in that elite tier with Emirates, and that's good enough for you to unlock first class seat availability within Emirates' own program, Skywards. So that continues to be the most straightforward way to really book your premium cabin, and particularly when it comes to first class. Yes, it comes with hefty surcharges and whatnot, $500 to $600 if you're thinking more Canada or US to Dubai. But I think that continues to be the most predictable and straightforward way of booking it. Of course, other bloggers sort of quickly pointed out earlier in summer that while that remains true for Skywards' own program, you are still able to sort of book using points, Skyward miles to book in business class. And then if there's any seat availability at check-in, you should be able to use a few more of your Skywards miles and upgrade yourself using the miles. So that is still an option. But again, that's like throwing the dice and hoping that it works out for you. Um, Not that it can't be done. That's if you follow enough sort of what's the if you follow Expert Flyer and look at the load factors and such, or just even continue to be on the app and check how many seats in first class are available, especially if you've booked yourself in business class using Skyward, then you could potentially line up at once check-in opens to immediately try and hope that that first class seat is still available, and for you to use your Skyward miles to upgrade yourself into first class cabin. Barring that, the obvious other way of thinking about this is how do you earn so many of these Skyward miles if you're not doing the US uh, Barclays credit card, then you can always look at transferring from, again, US cards, Amex, Citi, Capital One, all of them transfer to Emirates Skywards one to one. Bonvoy is the other one that can. So in Canada, I think Bonvoy would be the only option. So if you have lots of Bonvoy, you can transfer 3 to 1, the usual. For every 60,000, you get additional five. So for every 60,000 Bonvoy points, you get 25,000 um, airline miles. So you could do that, but then of course you have to be a little bit more ready for that because it does take 3 to 5 business days for Bonvoy transfers to happen. So you could speculatively park whatever number of miles you need, 100,000, 200,000, and then continue to look. And as soon as you get something, you pull the trigger on that once it's in your account. Um, Interestingly, though, despite making that elite status expectation out of their own members in the Skyward program, there were two programs that continue to see first class availability uh, as a partner. Can somebody tell me both the programs? Trivia, fun trivia. There are two loyalty programs that continue to see first class availability. Thoughts on which are these two? Yeah, nice. Well done, Alex. Yes, those other two, Aeroplan and Qantas, continue to. Aeroplan more so at exorbitant rates, to be very honest. Anything that I've seen in first class more recently has not been lower than 300,000 going from Canada or going from the US into Dubai. So 300,000, it's hard to justify spending that kind of aeroplan miles, to be honest. So let's keep aeroplan aside because that's just too much. Um, Alex also says all the Qantas I've heard is only that touches Australia and New Zealand, but haven't confirmed that. I can confirm, Alex, that's not true. Qantas is still good. It's not as good as it used to be pre sort of summer when this entire elite status thing and first class came about. But Qantas will still give you that first class availability. And particularly for first class, it might just, so the reason I think that conversation comes about that anything touches Australia, New Zealand might be available is because I think they make that a little more available to their own members as well as Qantas's own first class. And with Qantas's program, Qantas releases their own premium award spaces to their own members 353 days in advance compared to 331 days with partners. So say, for example, again, I'm just veering away from Emirates talk, but if you wanted to book Qantas first class or Qantas business class, the reason, and if you were using, say, for example, American, the reason you don't see too much availability there is because of that additional 22 days that Qantas is giving its own members in its own program. So most of those availability gets snapped up by Qantas members. So if you don't have an account yet with Qantas, I would say build one because Qantas as a program is really strong, especially if you are going in that region, I would say, not just to Australia or New Zealand, just that region or even Asia Pacific for that matter. It's a very, very strong program. And you will find Emirates first class availability with Qantas as well. Um, I looked up, I was just playing around seats.aero just before hopping on this call, which is basically what delayed me, and I was fashionably late, so to speak, by 5 minutes or so, and found plenty of availability on Qantas on Emirates. Um, in business class, lots of them. First class, I couldn't find anything based on the ranges that I was looking at. Wasn't surprising, with the exception of Dubai Riyadh, which was showing up for 42,000 40,000 Qantas miles in first class. A very short flight, but at least it was showing and it was available if you really needed to experience that. But I was actively able to look for other Fifth Freedom routes like Miami, Bogota, for example, which was, I wrote it down because I surprised that it was lower than Emirates' own program. Miami, Bogota was 43,600 in business class. Dubai Frankfurt was 68,400 Qantas miles in business class. Dubai Narita was showing up as 98,400 in business class. And all of these, of course, you will be paying a chunk of change in taxes. For example, that Dubai Narita flight that was showing up on Qantas as 98,400 was with 650 Australian dollars for taxes. And if you compare, so I quickly compared that to Skywards when I logged in and found that exact same date, exact same flight. Qantas was showing 98,400. Skywards was showing 120,000 with about 500 US in taxes. So compare 120,000 Skyward miles plus 500 US dollars versus 98,400 Qantas miles and 650 Australian dollars. That was the comparison for that Dubai to Narita flight. Um, so yeah, to that point, Alex, I was able to find a lot of business class flights in several of these routes. They didn't necessarily touch Australia or New Zealand particularly. Um, that said, that statement might be a little more true for when it comes to finding Emirates first class space. But that said, I've seen other Fifth Freedom routes on Qantas as well in the past. I just didn't bother checking them before this call, so I don't have an immediate answer for you there. But I did find Dubai, Riyadh, like I said, as an example in first class on Qantas. So yeah, Qantas continues to be a really good program for those of you that might be interested. It's one of those niche programs. And I mean, we've mentioned this before. It's becoming one of those things where you now have to, if you are going after a particular product, no longer can you just sit back on your primary and secondary loyalty programs. And I think that that would unlock all of these. We are increasingly going towards uh, increasingly are in a space where we have to move and we have to be able to move those points to these niche programs, be it a Qantas program, be it a Cathay Pacific Asia Miles or a Singapore Chris Flyer, in order to lock in some of those aspirational products from these airlines within their own program because they're making availability far more sort of, for lack of a better term, easier to get within their own program as it is to get through partner programs. Um, but like I said, so Qantas continues to be that, and unfortunately for us in Canada, Bonvoy to Qantas miles would be the only one to do. Uh, would be the only transferable currency. Uh, yeah, but yeah, if you are flexible in medium to short haul flights on Emirates to try out their first class, to try out some of their business class and the game changers and things like that, then you definitely want to keep an eye out on your Qantas program. I'm not necessarily advocating that people move their miles already, but keep playing around in Seats.aero or other search engines to look for award spaces and look at which program those awards are showing up on. And often you'll see for Emirates, it will only show you those two, Emirates' own program and Qantas. Aeroplan, we've seen a lot of availability directly on Aeroplan, but like I said, that availability comes at such a steep price that I don't think it makes it worthwhile for this community. Not even for a special trip, to be honest. Spending 300,000 one way for each person on a special trip seems like a waste of your Aeroplan points when it comes to Emirates first class. So I would rather save them for something else for other partners and try and book your Emirates either through a Qantas or Emirates' own program, Skywards, or better yet, uh, get used to using Skywards, booking yourself in business class, and then hoping that you get get a F or first class seat available at check-in for you to try and upgrade yourself using a few more Skyward miles. That was yeah, that was it. That was what I was playing around with just before this call. So I figured we should talk about that. And all of this was obviously because the A350 route came about, and from Montreal. So I was thinking, oh, if I had to do it again this time around, what are my programs? What am I looking at in order to try out that A350 route out of Montreal? And quickly became evident that I'll either be using Emirates' own program, or if I had to think sort of quote unquote outside the box, then I'm looking at Qantas once again because I've searched. I've flown on Qantas business class. I've searched and I've been a member with Qantas program for a few years now, and I've kind of known how they release their awards, not intricately, but known the number of days and such because it's well published in the Australian blogs. So yeah, though that's where my brain space was. So I figured may as well use this forum to talk about this and get some of your own feedback and data points. Um, Alex says, I am very surprised that Emirates has F hidden behind the elite status since they have the biggest first class footprint by far. I think twice as much as the next biggest footprint. Yeah. Is that surprising? Not really. I think, yes, they have the footprint, but they also have the demand. Demand from people, from their own members that spend some serious amount of money to keep their platinum status. So in order to sort of, give them the first dibs, so to speak, on that award, I'm not surprised that they did that for their own elite program, which is great. They're standing by their members because I think they have quickly realized that a lot of those Emirates aspirational seats were getting, snapped up by people in North America or say Asia and things like that, whereas their own folks that tend to sort of have the means and cash to kind of pay and fly on these flights when they would try and get on those. Uh, Maybe they weren't getting the kind of service that they were expecting from Emirates. So, yeah, I'm assuming that those were the reasons why they're sort of locking it down a little bit more. Um, but that said, it's not super difficult. Like I said, if you are into if you're in the US market, there's a couple of credit cards that give you that option already. Most of the people that are in that region, like Middle East, have access to several of these products from Emirates' own credit cards and bank partners around in that region. Um, and to be very honest, like I said, we've already discussed a couple of options that you could still easily get around and get your first class in Emirates if you absolutely had to fly them in first class or business class for that matter. So, with that, let's close this one out. Have a lovely, lovely weekend, folks. Enjoy and stay in touch. Take care.